Friday, you got the news. Where were you? How did you react?
A guy, in the dorm, he actually told me that he heard it on the radio, and I was in total disbelief. I felt like I had to, see it and hear it for myself, but when I finally found out, when, the warden, he confirmed to me that it was true, I was ecstatic.
When did you get the phone call that convinced you that the Supreme Court had actually made this decision on your behalf?
Someone came down to the dorm to get me, and I was escorted up to the warden's office, and that's when I got the great news.
And how did you react?
At the time, there's no words that really, there's no words that can really explain how I feel. I felt great.
So tell me when you were convinced and felt a sense of freedom for the first time.
Well, actually, they gave me a card. It's a release card, and then that's when my patience really kicked in. I had to just sit down and wait that out until my attorney and my mother got there.
2.5 years in prison as a sexual offender. Maximum security. What's it like?
It was very difficult for me, especially having to accept that I was labeled as a sex offender, basically a predator. But that's something that I never gave myself that label. I accept the situation that I was in.
But the sexual offender label makes you what people would refer to as a child molester. That's a heavy rap, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is. It's something that, I never would have allowed myself to be, or be labeled as. So, it was difficult for me, just to be incarcerated for something of that nature.
Did you cry?
In the beginning, it was so hurtful, and just to know how I was being labeled and treated and what I was being portrayed as, yes, it forced me to shed tears numerous times.
Most people would say, 17-year-old guy having sex with a 15-year-old ends up with 10 years in prison, hard time, rapists, murderers, labeled a sexual offender, child molester. That ain't right.
Of course, I believe that it was absurd, but, I had to look at it that, these gentlemen were doing their job, and, they felt like that they were carrying out the law. And, as prosecutors, and you have to maintain an image of being tough, so I don't place the blame on any of them. We did everything that we had to do throughout the court system, and, justice was finally prevailed.
Well, the girl who was involved, do you ever talk to her? Have you ever apologized to her?
Well, for the most part, I think what happened that night, I don't think any of us made very wise decisions, but I don't think that any of us can go back then and change what happened.
Do you feel like you should have been punished for it?
Possibly, but I don't think it's harsh. I believe it's something that, could have been settled between parents, or, something that, scare us up and make us, just teach us a lesson, but I don't think it should have, ever come this far.
When I went to see you in prison, I remember I talked to you as if you were my son. And I said, Genarlow, you know what you did was stupid, right? And you said, yes, sir. You said, yes, sir, it was. You still believe what you did was stupid?
Oh, absolutely. And, I don't condone it. I wouldn't tell anyone to go out and do that for themselves. It was just something that I had to mature from. Because us as teenagers, we all make stupid decisions and, make idiotic moves, but that's part of being a teen. You have to live and learn.
Do you almost wish you could go back to that day and say, oh my God, what am I doing here?
Yes, I've thought about that numerous times, but, I'm at the point in my life where I know I can't go back and change anything, so I'm only willing to move forward. Was it ignorance on your part?
Did you know that as a 17-year-old, for having oral sex with a 15-year-old, you could be charged with with aggravated sexual battery and 10 years in prison?
I didn't know.
You're not bitter?
Of course not.
Did you ever believe you would be in prison for 10 years?
You know, I had faith in, you know, what we were doing. I had faith in my attorney. I had faith that the courts, you know, that they would make the right decision.
But they offered you deals. You could have walked from prison a long time ago. You didn't have to stay in there. Why did you stay in there?
Well, it wasn't necessarily just about the time. You know, it was the principle. It was that, you know, I didn't want to be labeled as a sex offender, you know, because I am not one. You know, so I just couldn't allow myself to do that. You know, you're going to have, that was temptation. You know how you might have something in life, you know, that you might want. Sometimes you have to put aside the stuff that you want in order to do stuff that you need.
But you would have been able to get out and walk as a free man. And the only thing is, you would have carried with you this label of sexual offender.
Exactly, but I might have had lesser time, but then again, I would have nowhere to go because I would have no home. I wouldn't be able to stay with my mother because I have a little sister. You know, when you're a sex offender, you can't be around kids. Basically, that's like I can't even have kids myself. You know, so what is the point of life?
So you weren't willing to do that deal?
Of course not. You have no future.